many new developments in this case late today. Denver 7's Jennifer Kovaleski is live in Weld County. Jen, Watts is telling a very different story than what we're hearing from prosecutors.
Yeah, Shannon and Ann, we just got a copy of this affidavit. I want to read from it to make sure that we're right. And we just learned the formal charges against Christopher Watts. I'll get to that in a minute. But I want to read this part that is kind of the most interesting part we've been able to gather so far, saying that Chris stated after he told Shanann he wanted a separation, he walked downstairs for a moment and then returned to his bedroom to speak with Shanann again.
Shanann, you pronounce it like shenanigans.
Yeah, Shannon and Ann was Shanann again. Yeah, Shannon and Ann was Shanann again.
Shenanigans.
So I'm Shannon Ogden.
And I'm Jacqueline Allen. We begin with breaking news in the case against Chris Watts, the Frederick man accused of killing his family.
He does not want prosecutors to collect his DNA. Contact 7 investigative reporter Ryan Luby's in the newsroom. Ryan, he's putting up quite a fight for this.
He is saying it would amount to a violation of his constitutional rights, especially unreasonable search and seizure. Remember, last week, prosecutors filed a motion seeking permission from the court to take cheek swabs from Watts, along with finger and palm prints and detailed photographs of his hands and his face. Well, in the last 24 hours, he and his public defender attorney said the prosecution request is too generic. He wants to know why they want to do these kinds of procedures and says the law calls for that. Now, it's quite clear the court expected resistance from Watts because they're giving prosecutors until tomorrow to respond to Watts' arguments. Also, just today, we learned prosecutors do not yet want the public to know how Shanann, Bella, and Celeste Watts died. Watts' wife and 2 young daughters he's charged with killing, as you know. Prosecutors want their autopsy reports withheld for now because they say the information could taint witness testimony and have an impact on future jurors. Now, the court will have to make a decision on both of these issues in the next week.
The headlines making news across our state this morning. We start in Weld County, where the district attorney's office says autopsy reports for the mom and her children killed in Frederick are now complete. The reports for the Christopher Watts murder case remain sealed pending a hearing before a judge. The Greeley Tribune reports that hearing has not yet been scheduled. Watts is charged with the murders of his wife and 2 children. He will be back in court on November 19th for a status conference.
The Weld County District Attorney argued the cause of death will be critical evidence and should be sealed. A judge has denied prosecutors' request to block release of the autopsy report.
Thomas Hoppo is the first reporter to ask Watts' parents their thoughts on his potential life sentence and what they believe really happened to Shanann, Bella, and Celeste.
Have you been able to see him at all?
No.
Anything about prison?
No, we got to see him one time. That was that Monday right before the plea deal. That Monday
Right
night.
before the plea deal, and that was it.
These are the parents of Chris Watts, the man who pled guilty to killing his pregnant wife, Shanann, and 2 kids, Bella and Celeste.
How did he kill her? How did he say he did it when he snapped?
He said he did the same thing that she did to him, that she did to the girls.
His parents went into details about the relationship problems Shanann and Chris allegedly had, but more importantly, spoke about the frustrations with his whole plea.
Are you frustrated with this attorneys here Are you guys frustrated with the direction they may have put him through?
Yes, I am. I am absolutely frustrated.
We contacted his public defender, but they declined to comment.
Do you think he was coerced at all?
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea what the public, to me, that all they wanted to do was just save his life. Just save his life. Well, save his life and life in prison, to me, there's no difference. You know, he's going to die in prison, and there's no telling what will be done to him in prison. And I just want him to fight. I want him to not take this plea deal. I want him to plead not guilty to the children.
After this interview, the Watts are looking at different legal avenues, even looking at another attorney in Denver to take their son's case. But there's been some reaction about all this from Shanann's family.
Are you guys worried about some of the backlash about maybe coming out and speaking on behalf of Chris and what it might do to your guys' relationship, and, you know, speaking out like this about a woman who can't defend herself right now?
Well, Shanann, I mean, you have to get to know her to be around her. Put it that way.
Her family's attorney sent us this statement. Their false statements, however hurtful and inaccurate, will never alter the truth about Shanann and will never alter the truth about the crimes committed by their son. Her memory and reputation deserves to be protected, and her family is fully prepared to do so.
I just want to make sure he's doing the right thing.
Yes.
I mean, if he didn't kill the children, I want him to say so. And let them prove it.
I spoke to a longtime friend of both Shanann and Chris who saw the interview. Out of respect of the families, he didn't want to do an on-camera interview, but said both families are hurting and just hope for the family's sake that Chris doesn't continue to fight this and go to trial.
I didn't want them just to save his life or to life in prison. I wanted them to have a defense. You know, there was a defense there.
And Watts' sentencing is on Monday, and until then, he could technically withdraw his plea to take the case to trial. However, he would have to show a fair and just reason.
And Thomas, the parents reached out to you because they wanted to tell everybody that their son is not a monster, right? But they also pointed out that they did not have a very good relationship with Shanann, right?
Right. Yeah, that was made very clear in that interview that we did. They did not have a good relationship, they said, from the start, and they understand that the family is hurting right now, Shanann's family, and they just want everything to come out, the truth, and they are believing their son, but they are torn as well.
The prosecution in this case has in fact respected the Victim Bill of Rights. They took the time to explain that the information that my clients had at the time that they were interviewed was not correct. They were misinformed, they were searching for answers, they were not intending to cause any pain to anyone, and they appreciate that the prosecution answered their questions and gave them the time and the respect and the consideration so that they could tell this court and everyone in this community that the interview content was not their message, that they accept that their son has done this, that they accept that he chose to plead guilty, that he sought and requested their consent and agreement for a life sentence. They appreciate that he is given the opportunity to serve that life sentence. It is his responsibility, it is his sentence, and it is not enough to make up for what has done. We understand and we join the family in that we have questions. We don't know how such a thing could possibly happen, or that a man that was responsible for raising his children and protecting his wife would take the steps that he did, and that he would disregard their bodies and the love that he had for them and they had for him and everyone else, and take the gestures and put this community through the investigation and the discovery and the responsibility of bringing justice. We do not understand that. We do not think it was appropriate. We cannot begin to think that an explanation will ever justify it. My clients indicate that they understand that a full opportunity for a confession with all of the responsibility and accountability has not occurred, and they support the family and the request that that happen.
A senseless crime and the viciousness of the crime. And equally aggravating in this court's determination is the despicable act of disposing of the bodies in the manner in which they were done in this case.
And it was a dark side of Christopher Watts that seemed to come out of nowhere.
Well, Shanann, I mean, she was, you have to get to know her to be around her.